You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Spokesman for the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia, Chad Rodemeyer, responded to an email from EAC News confirming that the current issue around Humanet's degree had already been explained by West Point Academy in 2019, meaning that the U.S. school does not divide its degrees into Level 2 or second-class standard or honorary degree status, as oppositional leader Sam Rainsy claimed. Chad Rodemeyer confirmed to EAC News that the embassy could not comment on U.S. school diplomas on behalf of educational institutions, but said that in Humanet's case, the issue had already been clarified by West Point Academy in October 2019, when the head of public affairs, Christopher Orford, liaison at the West Point American Academy of Sciences, confirmed that allowing international students to study at West Point Academy was an initiative of the State Department and the Department of Defense, and the way they choose to study and train in the military is the same as that of American students. There is no division of Level 2 students or honorary degree students. On Wednesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen asked the U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia, Patrick Murphy, to help clarify whether degrees received by Cambodian students from the United States are second-class or only of an honorary nature, in order to protect the honor of the education in the United States. He made this request during his speech at the award ceremony for Oksade Moon at the Peace Palace. The Prime Minister's request comes after Sam Rainsy made accusations about his son Humanet's education degrees.
តើអាមេរិកអាចនឹងនិយាយបានទេលើបញ្ហាដែលថាសាលា West Point មានកម្រិតជាសញ្ញាបត្រប្រភេទ2ឬសញ្ញាបត្រកិត្តិយសតើសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកការពារជនខិលខូចឬការពារសាលារបស់អាមេរិកមិនមែនការពារហ៊ុនម៉ាណែតទេការពារសាលា
He continued that only representatives from the United States and United Kingdom could come forward to prove the quality of the educational degrees from their countries, and that such a confirmation would show that they are protecting their educational institutions and not corrupted people.
អញ្ចឹងទេគឺមានតែសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនិងអង់គ្លេសដើម្បីការពារស្ថាប័នអប់រំរបស់ខ្លួនគឺមានតែចេញមកបញ្ជាក់តែប៉ុណ្ណឹងហើយបើសិនទេថាធ្វើអញ្ចឹងទៅហាក់ដូចជាវាយប្រហារខាងនយោបាយចំពោះអ្នកដែលបាននិយាយអាហ្នឹងក៏ទុកអញ្ចឹងទៅយើងក៏សម្គាល់មើលអាហ្នឹងណាតើគេការពារស្ថាប័នអប់រំរបស់គេឬគេការពារមនុស្សខិលខូចយើងក៏សម្គាល់មើលអាហ្នឹងណា
On 25 December, Sam Rainsy gave an interview to a foreign newspaper broadcast in Khmer, stating that the degrees Humanet received from both West Point Military Academy and New York University in the United States and his PhD from Bristol University in the United Kingdom are second-class diplomas or were granted only as honorary degrees. In response, Humanet called for a bet with Sam Rainsy on political life, saying that if Sam Rainsy could find evidence on his claims about Humanet's degrees, then Humanet would resign from his position as future prime ministerial candidate of the Cambodian People's Party. However, if Sam Rainsy cannot find any evidence, then he must resign from politics. After waiting for 2 days without a reply, Humanet posted another message to Sam Rainsy saying to stop doing politics altogether, because he did not have the courage to defend his argument and is not giving an example of being a good citizen. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Another 337 former Cambodian students who study abroad issue an open letter demanding that oppositional leader Sam Rainsy publicly apologize for insulting Humanet's foreigner degree. Previously, a group of Cambodian PhD students had also sent an open letter to Sam Rainsy stating that they consider his public statement about Cambodian students receiving only second-class or honorary degrees were detrimental to their honor and dignity. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more.
The open letter signed by 337 former students states, We, the alumni of the doctoral, master's, and higher education programs who have graduated abroad, express our deepest disappointment and regret to the old politician, someone who has downplayed the quality of the degree we received abroad as second-class degree or an honorary degree. The former students write that they consider the public statements of Sam Rainsy as highly damaging to their honor and dignity and a refusal to recognize the efforts of all students who travel far away to get an education abroad. They note that many struggle to leave their motherland and study, having to overcome many obstacles in order to be successful in their studies and bring knowledge and skills back to Cambodia to participate in building and developing the country upon their return. The letter also states that Sam Rainsy's words can act to discourage many Cambodian students who are preparing to study abroad in the future. The students add that Rainsy's statement degrades the assessment of the quality of the education one can receive abroad, as well as degrades the education systems of the foreign countries where many Cambodian students have gone to study and successfully graduated from. For these reasons, the students request that Sam Rainsy make a public apology and corrections to his statement in order to set an example for the next generation of politicians. The former students also expressed their full support for the message Hun Manait posted on his Facebook page on 28 December, which asked Sam Rainsy to have the courage to come forward and retract his statement while facing the Cambodian students who study both in the country and abroad. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Hun Sen, as chair of ASEAN 2022, will embark on his official two-day visit to Myanmar on Friday to hold a bilateral meeting with Senior General Min Aung Hlaing and seek a solution to the conflict in the country. The Prime Minister will also be delivering a donation of medical materials on behalf of the government and people of the Kingdom of Cambodia to the Republic of the Union of Myanmar to aid in the fight against COVID-19. Prime Minister Hun Sen will be leading a high-level delegation to visit Myanmar on January 7 and 8 at the invitation of Senior General Min Aung Hlaing to discuss and exchange views on bilateral and multilateral cooperation and recent developments in ASEAN. The Prime Minister has also previously stated that he will be seeking to negotiate a solution to the ongoing crisis in Myanmar. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Praksokon, the Minister of Industry, Science, Technology and Innovation, Cham Prasid, and a number of senior government officials will be accompanying the Prime Minister on his visit. Additionally, the delegation will be delivering a donation of medical materials on behalf of the royal government and people of Cambodia. The donation comprises of 3 million face masks, 200,000 N95 masks, 100,000 goggles, 30,000 personal protection equipment, 30,000 face shields, 3,000 safety plastic boots, and 50 units each of ventilators, patient monitors, and oxygen concentrators. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. In the latest update on the Naga World protests, the Phnom Penh Municipal Court has made the decision to detain Naga World Union leaders Chim Sithaw and Sok Narit on charges of incitement to commit a crime under Articles 594 and 595 of the Cambodian Penal Code, while another union official, Sok Konkia, has been placed under judicial supervision. The two arrested leaders will be detained at Prey Sai prison. Previously, 6 others connected to the Naga World protests had also been arrested on New Year's Eve. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has more details.
According to the co-lawyer of all 3 union leaders, Sam Chamron, after a full day of questioning, the Phnom Penh Municipal Court has decided to detain Cham Sithaw and Sok Narit at Prey Sai prison for incitement to commit a crime. Additionally, union leader Sok Konkia has also been placed under court supervision and was released on bail. Sam Chamron has stated that he considers the decision to charge his clients as too hasty and unfair. He has said that he would be filing a complaint to the investigative chamber of the Court of Appeal to demand that his 2 clients be released on bail. The Deputy Director for Monitoring at the Cambodian League for the Promotion and Defense of Human Rights, Aim Sam At, has said that the arrest of the 3 union leaders and their representatives is not a good resolution to the problem between the company, Naga World, and the protesting workers. He added that if authorities continue to arrest protesters, it will be a violation of labor rights and will also act as a violation of basic rights and a threat to advocates of nonviolent protest. Naga World Workers Union members have been involved in close to 3 weeks of strikes and protests over the termination of more than 1,300 Naga World workers last year due to disruptions by the COVID-19 pandemic. On Tuesday, the Phnom Penh police held a press conference on the arrest of 6 protesting union members on New Year's Eve, presenting evidence of financial reports, voicemails, and plans from foreign and domestic organizations supporting the organization of the protests, which the municipal court has determined as enough evidence to detain the union leaders and proceed with further legal proceedings. The court has so far decided to charge a total of 9 protesters for causing disturbances to Social Security under Articles 494 and 495 of the Penal Code of the Kingdom of Cambodia. A total of 119 civil society groups issued a 5-page statement on Tuesday evening, expressing their deep disappointment with the actions and decision of the Phnom Penh Municipal Police to detain the union leaders, negotiators, and union activists who support the labor rights of the Naga World workers of the company. The Australian Embassy in Cambodia has also released a short statement on its official Facebook page, saying that people have the right to peaceful assembly and freedom of expression, and we encourage all parties to return to negotiations in pursuit of a swift and peaceful resolution. The U.S. Embassy to Cambodia has also posted a message on its Facebook page, stating that the embassy was closely monitoring the arrests of union members for their peaceful expression and urge authorities to hear citizens, not silence them. The embassy concluded its statement by saying that freedoms of speech, assembly, and association are guaranteed in the Cambodian constitution. Naga World workers continue to protest in front of the casino in Down Pen District, Phnom Penh, to demand that the company respect labor laws and accept them back to work and also pay them the appropriate compensation. Until now, the dispute between the company and the workers has not yet found a resolution, despite mediation from the Phnom Penh administration and the Ministry of Labor. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. The Ministry of Posts and Telecommunication launched the Digital Government Cooperation Center, known as DGCC, which plays an important role in building policy and capacity of digital government cooperation. Minister of Posts and Telecommunication Chia Vendet presided the launching ceremony along with Korean Ambassador to Cambodia Park Hwang-kyun. Representatives of the Korea International Cooperation Agency Cambodia office, as well as relevant officials, were also present at the launching ceremony. The Digital Government Cooperation Center was constructed for supporting joint Cambodia-Korea digital cooperation projects, as well as providing policy advice and capacity building, especially for sharing Korean digital government experience through events, digital government forums, and workshops. The DGCC project is part of the support for the implementation of the Cambodian Digital Government Policy 2022-2035. It's part of the royal government efforts to build a smart administration based on the use of digital technologies for modernizing the governance system and creating a conducive environment to boost an inclusive digital economy and society. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. The new academic year of the general education in Cambodia will kick off on Monday, 10 of January. On the occasion of the award ceremony for Cambodian Petanque gold medalist Og Sereng Mum, Prime Minister Hun Sen has announced kindergartens with children from 3 to 5 years old are allowed to reopen. EAC News reporter Kong Serepo has more.
At the Peace Palace this Wednesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen announced the reopening of all kindergartens thanks to the high level of herd immunity against COVID-19 in the kingdom. It's another step to ensure the country is fully reopened and distancing itself from the hardship of the 20 February community transmission, which has lasted 10 months ending on 20 of December. The Prime Minister has also stated that such decision will allow not only for pupils to be in class and learn how to socialize with teachers and colleagues, but will also give more freedom for parents to work and earn more income. According to the Prime Minister, around 3 million students are going to start the academic year next week. Cambodia announced the closure of the school across the country, including kindergarten, on 16 March 2020. Currently, Cambodia achieved 101.57% vaccination of the population aged 80 and over, 99.15% of 12 to 17 years old, and 105.30% of the age of 6 to 11 years old. Gong's report, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Prak Sokhon, delivered the 23rd ASEAN Lecture ASEAN Chairmanship 2022 via video conference on Monday at the invitation of ISEAS Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore. During the lecture, the foreign minister spoke about Cambodia's choice to steer ASEAN 2022 under the theme of ASEAN ACT, addressing challenges together, and emphasized the importance of ASEAN's spirit as a united family of 10. He has also answered some questions to those attending the online lecture and spoke particularly at length about the situation in Myanmar. While speaking at a lecture program hosted by the ISEAS, Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore on Monday, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhon answered some questions regarding Myanmar and Cambodia's decision to focus on helping resolve the crisis in the country as the year's Asians chair. He said that after the royal government announced Prime Minister Hun Sen will be making an official state visit to Myanmar, Cambodia has been facing certain threats, such as a recent bombing near the Cambodian embassy in Yangon and online posts of threats and insults to the royal government of Cambodia. He continued that Cambodia does not seek any political, economic, or strategic gain from its actions with Myanmar, and the kingdom is only interested in helping Myanmar rise out of civil war, tragedy, and suffering, which Cambodia has experienced in the past. The foreign minister said the situation in Myanmar is very complex, because of the country's political history, political culture, and the militant dominant role of the 70 years. He added that last year the situation in Myanmar caused concern for the region, especially ASEAN, due to the one-country humanitarian crisis, the two governments, the people's failure to comply with their guerrilla warfare orders being waged around the country, which affected regional stability. He continued that despite the many efforts of ASEAN and especially the special envoy of the chair for Myanmar, a solution to the crisis still has not come to light, hence, Cambodia is giving special focus to this issue as ASEAN chair. He stressed the need to provide humanitarian assistance to those most in need in Myanmar in connections with the 5 points consensus on Myanmar that ASEAN issued in the past, which calls for an end to the violence, the establishment of a multilateral dialogue, the coordination of ASEAN special envoys, the provision of humanitarian assistance, and the granting of special envoys to visit Myanmar. The crisis in Myanmar stems from the military coup that took place on 1st February 2021, which saw the arrest of State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other ruling party officials by the Myanmar Armed Forces who refused to recognize the results of the November 2020 election and handed over the leadership of the country to the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army, Min Aung Hlaing. Prime Minister Hun Sen, as the chair of ASEAN in 2022, will pay a visit to Myanmar on the 7th and 8th of January to help find a solution to the ongoing crisis. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. The Ministry of Public Works and Transport is in discussions with the National Police Commissioner of the Ministry of Interior to promote the establishment of a Telegram group used for people to report traffic accidents. The discussion comes after Prime Minister Hun Sen's speech at the award ceremony of Petanque gold medalist Og Mom, instructing the Minister of Public Works and Transport to create such group in order to control and prevent road accidents. EAC News reporter Darshana Gauchan has the information.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has instructed the Minister of Public Works and Transport, Sun Chantol, to hold talks with Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Interior, Saw King, to establish a free telegram system for the public. The group chat will be used for updating information on road traffic conditions such as accidents and violations of road traffic laws. The meeting has also issued the review of the program of deducting and adding points on drivers' licenses, the reporting on the strategy of electric vehicles, the progress of public service centers, the drafting of the roadmap network, and preparations for the ministry meeting. On this occasion, Senior Minister Sun Chantol said that the ministry is having discussions with the National Police Commissioner General of the Ministry of Interior to promote the mechanism of using the telegram system to be able to operate sustainably and maturely, making it easier for people to use. He added that the ministry is also examining the possibility of incorporating some automated apps and mechanisms to make the management of data transmission and reception easier for relevant officers and policemen to manage and have data to create strategic plans. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. French President Emmanuel Macron has said on Tuesday that he wanted to piss off the non-vaccinated in a slangy, cutting remark that prompted howls of condemnation from opposition rival less than 4 months before the next presidential election. France last year put in place a health pass that prevents people without a PCR test or proof of vaccination to enter restaurants, cafes, and other venues. The government wants to turn it into a vaccine passport that means only the vaccinated can have a health pass. The president was quoted as saying, "The unvaccinated, I really want to piss them off. And so we are going to continue doing so until the end. That's the strategy." He has added, "I won't send a vaccinated to prison. I want vaccinated by force. So we need to tell them from January 15, you won't be able to go to the restaurant anymore. You won't be able to have a coffee, go to the theater, the cinema." Macron has been criticized in the past for off-the-cuff remarks which many French people have said came across as arrogant, cutting, or scornful. He has later expressed remorse on several occasions. Right-wing presidential candidate Valérie Pécresse says that she was outraged by the president's comments. She was outraged by his comments, but that's not all he said. He also meant that unvaccinated are not citizens, and it's not up to the president to pick up and choose who among the French are good or bad. They have to be accepted as they are, and they should be governed and united without being insulted. As leader, there is a need and courage to tell the truth, but insults are never the right solution. And we must end this presidential mandate of disdain. Infectious diseases expert Eric Combs has announced on Wednesday that a part of him understood Macron's frustration with the unvaccinated, but that he remained a bit surprised. He has explained that as doctors, they also express a certain exasperation with regard to the unvaccinated and went beyond what was in our head. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. COVID-19 vaccines produced by China's Sinopharm and Sinovac can offer protection against severe illness, hospitalization, and death related to the Omicron variant, a World Health Organization official has said on Tuesday. WHO Incident Manager Abdi Muhammad has also stated that more evidence is emerging that Omicron is affecting the upper respiratory tract, causing milder symptoms than previous variants.
China's Sinopharm and Sinovac have been said to offer protection against severe disease. While Omicron seemed to be slipping past antibodies, evidence is emerging that current COVID-19 vaccines still provide some protection against the variant by eliciting a second pillar of the immune response from the T cells, according to WHO Incident Manager Abdi Muhammad.
We have seen right now is what's going to protect from severe hospitalization and death is your T cell response. So the neutralization antibodies goes down and it's the T cells. And what we know from other vaccines, they do prevent, whether the Sinovac, Sinopharm, the studies done in Chile, in other places have shown that they really work against severe hospitalization. So the vaccines had different ranking in terms of prevention of infection, but what we know very well so far is all of them prevent that. So it's too early to say when majority countries using our vaccines how that, but our prediction is that the protection against severe hospitalization and death will be maintained.
Sinovac's CoronaVac and state-owned Sinopharm's BBI-BP CoreV vaccine are the two most used vaccines in China and the leading COVID-19 shots exported by the country. More evidence is emerging that Omicron is affecting the upper respiratory tract, causing milder symptoms than previous variants, which would cause severe pneumonia, Mohammed noted. This may be good news, but more research is still needed to confirm it, he added. He warned that Omicron would become a dominant strain within weeks in many places due to its high transmissibility, posing a threat to medical systems in countries and regions where a high proportion of the population remains unvaccinated. Asked about whether an Omicron-specific vaccine was needed, Mohammed said it was too early to say, but he had voiced doubts and stressed that the decision required global coordination and should not be left to manufacturers to decide alone. Since the heavily mutated variant was first detected in November in South Africa, WHO data shows it has spread quickly and emerged in at least 128 countries and regions. Meanwhile, more evidence is emerging that the Omicron coronavirus variant is affecting the upper respiratory tract, causing milder symptoms than previous variants. World Health Organization's incident manager Abdi Mohammed has announced on Tuesday that they say more and more studies point out that Omicron is infecting the upper part of the body, which could be good news, unlike the other variants which cause severe pneumonia. However, he added that Omicron's high transmissibility means it will become dominant within weeks in many places, posing a threat in countries where a high portion of the population remains unvaccinated.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. North Korea has fired a suspected ballistic missile off its east coast on Wednesday. Authorities in Japan and South Korea have confirmed, underscoring leader Kim Jong-un's New Year vow to bolster the military to counter an unstable international situation. Japan's Coast Guard, which first reported the launch, has said it could be a ballistic missile, but did not provide further details. The launch is the first this year for the nuclear-armed nation. Since last year, North Korea has repeatedly launched missiles, which is very regrettable, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has told reporters. Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi has told reporters the suspected missile had flown for about 500 kilometers and landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff have said that the missile was launched eastward at about 8 a.m. on Wednesday from a land-based platform, according to the Yonhap news agency. The test comes days after the conclusion of a key party meeting in North Korea that focused mainly on the pandemic-hit economy, although leader Kim Jong-un has promised to continue to bolster the country's defense but did not specifically mention weaponry. The country has continued test firing new short-range ballistic missiles, including one launched from a submarine in October. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Now for a look at news making international headlines this Thursday, 6 January.
At least 13 people, including 7 children, were killed in an early morning fire on Wednesday, 5th of January, in a Philadelphia apartment building after smoke detectors has failed to go off, the Philadelphia Fire Department has announced. Firefighters have arrived around 6:40 a.m. and fought for about 15 minutes to control the blaze on the second floor of the 3-story row house in the city's Fairmount neighborhood, owned by the city's public housing authority. 8 people have managed to escape the building through one of the 2 exits, and 7 children were among those killed. Philadelphia Deputy Fire Commissioner Craig Murphy told reporters at a news conference. Officials did not give the children's ages. Fire officials have said the death count could change. Nearby, fire trucks were still parked outside the red brick building, its facade blackened, its windows smashed out and dark. A child and an adult were taken by paramedics to nearby hospitals. There were 4 smoke detectors in the building, but they failed to activate, fire officials said. There were conflicting accounts as to when the smoke detectors were last inspected. The fire department has said they were last inspected in 2020. The executive vice president at the Philadelphia Housing Authority, Dinesh Indala, has told reporters the last annual inspection was in May 2021. He has stated there were 6 functioning detectors at the time of the May inspection, not 4. He said he did not know why the detectors did not go off. The building was converted to house 2 families, Indala has confirmed, and 26 people lived in the building.
Kazakh police have used flash grenades as hundreds of protesters have tried to storm the mayor's office in the country's biggest city, Almaty, in the early hours of Wednesday, the 5th of January. Police have removed hundreds of protesters from the city's main square using tear gas and flash grenades. A witness has recalled there were a series of explosions in the vicinity of the city's main square where the mayor's office is located. Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has declared a 2-week state of emergency in the Central Asian nation's biggest city, Almaty, and in the western Majinkstal province, both of which have become scenes of mass protests. Protests have erupted in several Kazakh cities and towns after the authorities have lifted price caps on liquefied petroleum gas, a popular car fuel, allowing prices to surge.
A soldier peers over the top of a trench as snow falls thickly over the surrounding field near the village of Kremsky in eastern Ukraine. This is the front line of Ukraine's war against Russian-backed forces in the Luhansk region. Russian troops' movements near Ukraine's borders have alarmed Kiev and its western allies in recent weeks. Through the soldiers here say they are ready for any escalation from Russia. One soldier says that they are determined to stand firm and they will not give up their country. They fought for the independence for a long time. The soldier named Martin has added he doesn't plan to stay there forever. He plans to repel any Russian attack and come back home so that his daughter will later say, "Wow, father, you managed to stop superpower with your own hands." U.S. officials have warned Russia might launch an attack against Ukraine as early as the second half of January, when the ground will be harder, making it easier for tanks and other armor to move swiftly. Russia has demanded security guarantees it wants from the West in order to defuse the current crisis. Moscow denies it is planning a new military offensive and accuses Kiev of building up its own forces in the east of the country.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has made a speech on Thursday morning saying Novak Djokovic failed to provide sufficient proof to receive a medical exemption to enter Australia. Australian Border Force on Thursday cancelled the visa of Djokovic, the world #1 tennis player, and denied him entry into the country to play in the Australian Open tournament after he was forced to wait for several hours at Melbourne Airport. In a dramatic series of events through the Melbourne night, Djokovic touched down at Tullamarine Airport Wednesday about 11:30 p.m. local time after a 14-hour flight from Dubai, but was ushered into an isolation room under police guard when Australian officials said his visa did not allow for medical exemptions.
Rules are rules, and there are no special cases. Rules are rules. It's what I said to you yesterday. That's the policy of the government and has been our government's strong border protection policies, and particularly in relation to the pandemic, that has ensured that Australia has one of the lowest death rates from COVID anywhere in the world. And I want to thank the Australian Border Force officers for doing their job, implementing the government's policy. And the ABF has done their job. Entry with a visa requires double vaccination or a medical exemption. I'm advised that such an exemption was not in place, and as a result, he is subject to the same rule as anyone else. That ultimately, this is the responsibility of the traveller. It is for the traveller to be able to assert and back up their ability to come into the country consistent with our laws. So they'll take advice from many places. No advice was provided by the Commonwealth Government, I underscore, but they will take advice, but it's up to them at the end of the day. And if they don't comply with the rules, then the Australian Border Force will do their job, and they have done their job. This is nothing about any one individual. It is simply a matter of following the rules. And so those processes will take their course over the next few hours, and that event will play out as it should. People try to run the border all the time, by the way. You know, people come with a visa but may not satisfy other requirements for entry. And people are put on planes and turned back all the time. Anybody who's watched the Border Patrol shows will understand that. This is not an irregular thing to happen if someone is put on a plane and told to return to their country, even if they may have come with a valid visa. A visa is one issue, but you have to have a double vaccination, because that's the country's rule for entry into the country, and that is assessed at the border. And we don't have Border Force officers in every airport around the country. And he provided information to the airline to allow his entry onto the plane. But people get on that plane. That is not an assurance that they'll be able to come through Australia's border at the other side. It wasn't a problem necessarily with the visa. There are many visas granted. And if you have a visa and you're double vaccinated, well, you're very, very welcome to come. And I think what this says to everybody in Australia, people are welcome in Australia. But if you're not double vaccinated and you're not an Australian resident or citizen, well, you can't come. And many countries have those rules around the world, and we have them, and they've been very important for securing Australia during the course of this pandemic. And so it is on them to have the proof to show why they wouldn't have to be vaccinated. Now, he was unable to furnish that proof to the Border Force officers at the airport last night, and they're the rules, and it happens on many occasions, and that's what's now happened. So there is no suggestion of any particular position in relation to Serbia. In fact, Serbia has been a very good friend of Australia and provided very strong support, particularly on security issues globally, and we greatly appreciate that. So this is a very specific case that deals with one individual, Australia's sovereign border laws and their fair application. It is not appropriate for me to go into Mr Djokovic's own medical history. That would not be a fair thing for us to do. They are matters for him to discuss in terms of his own medical history. But all I can say is that the evidence for medical exemption that was provided was found to be insufficient.
Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said the country has offered its support to tennis world #1 Novak Djokovic. In his Twitter account, the Serbian president declared, "I told our Novak that the whole of Serbia is with him and that our bodies are doing everything to see that the harassment of the world's best tennis player is brought to an end immediately." On Tuesday, Djokovic has said he has initially been granted a medical exemption from the country's COVID-19 vaccination requirements so that he could play in the Australian Open. Arriving in Australia, however, things turn out differently. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. With a month to go before the start of the Beijing Winter Olympics, Chinese President Xi Jinping visited a Games venue and inspected ongoing preparations for the 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. The 2022 Games, which open on February the 4th, are set to take place as the world grapples with the highly transmissible Omicron variant, although China, which has a zero-tolerance COVID-19 policy, reported a handful of Omicron cases. Organizers said on Wednesday that the closed-loop bubble, in which participants can only leave if they are exiting the country or undergoing quarantine, was activated as planned on Tuesday. The loop restricts games-related personnel to certain zones in and around Olympics venues to avoid any contact and risk of transmission with the local population. Overseas participants will fly directly into and out of the closed loop. More than 2,000 international athletes are set to come to China for the Games, plus 25,000 other stakeholders, a large number from overseas. Organizers did not say how many of those people would be in the closed loop. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Former two-time unified world heavyweight champion, Britain's Anthony Joshua, said he's looking forward to his next boxing bout against Alexander Usyk and is confident of redeeming himself after being beaten by the Ukrainian in an unanimous points decision loss last September. Speaking at Expo 2020 Dubai, the former two-time unified world heavyweight champion also conceded that the second loss of his career hurt the most and that he was simply beaten by the better fighter on the night. Joshua, who is expected to face Usyk for a second time in either March or April, having triggered his rematch clause last October, defiantly weighed in on where he sees himself in the current heavyweight picture among the likes of Usyk, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, definitely. Fully motivated. I'm normally someone that looks at the positive, but there ain't no point. I need to right that wrong. That's it. Let me not complicate it. Right the wrong, get back on the gravy train. Then it's a fight I know I can win. It's a fight he probably knows he can win. You know, he fought that in the first place. I fought that in the first place. He got the better of me. I'm gonna come back. Trust me, we're going for it. I'm looking forward to it. When I lost the first time, as I said, I never made no excuses. But I have my reason, and I always felt like, cool, you know, I took my loss, but I'll get it back. I knew I'll get it back. So I just brushed that, but this one hurt because I was 100%, no problems, everything was cool. Went in there and I just lost to the better man that night and it hurt, but it gave me motivation to pull myself out of that position where mentally it killed me, and I fought my way back, and I'll redeem myself. For me, you know, I took my loss. I'm not saying I'm bad, but I'm a good fighter, and I came up against another good fighter, and it just weren't my night, and we bounced back. So I tell people now, when I see sometimes the reaction of people, I wish they were stronger mentally, because one loss doesn't mean you should stop. 10 losses doesn't mean you should stop. You never know when your greatness is around the corner, and if I stop today because it's like, oh, I've lost twice, I'm not as good as I thought I was, I'll never be able to fully know how far I could have taken this. So that's what I use this as a motivation for, is, you know what, even though I've lost, what else is out there waiting for me? So I look at some of the other fighters and I look back at their career and I think, when did they grow a pair and start fighting people? They weren't always that brave. Everything we see of certain fighters today, look back at them, and that's why I don't believe what they talk about, because I've studied these guys. They're not true warriors. A true warrior is a warrior from the start. They're not built. And for me, I went straight in the deep end ever since I come in boxing. So I just want to be remembered for someone who was willing, a true warrior, and I fought everyone.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. An Australian biotech startup say their drones can combat deforestation by planting millions of trees a year from the air. And this is perfect to solve the problem of deforestation in Brazil's Amazon rainforest, which hit its highest level in over 15 years. According to the latest data, some 13,000 square kilometers was lost during the 2020-2021 period.
EAC Technology wants to fight climate change and biodiversity loss by combining drone technology, artificial intelligence, and their special seed pods designed to be fired into the ground from the air. According to CEO and co-founder of EAC Technologies, Andrew Walker, each drone can plant over 40,000 seed pods per day, and the drones fly autonomously. In comparison to traditional methodologies, that's 25 times faster and also 80% cheaper.
So EAC Technologies is an environmental restoration company that combines some really awesome technology, so drone technology, software and hardware, to really deliver a hyper-productive planting solution for the environmental space. And we balance that also with some really innovative biotech, which really supports the seeds once they're on the ground and allows them to support them on germination, emergence and early stage growth. Each of our drones can plant over 40,000 seed pods per day, and they fly autonomously. You know, in comparison to traditional methodologies, that's sort of 25 times faster, but also 80% cheaper. So that really allows the adoption of more carbon mitigation, biodiversity loss projects to be undertaken, which is what we really need to do if we are going to sort of, you know, start reducing and draw down the emissions that we've caused over the course of the last 30-40 years. So EAC Technologies uses machine learning for identifying the best locations to plant, but also for identifying specific plant species, specifically weed types, which could be invasive and combative to the plants that we actually plant, and we can identify them using different types of remote sensing and drone tech, and then we analyze those that data through machine learning so that we know what we need to go and address in the field quickly to make sure that we have the maximum success in our projects.
The new technology can deliver thousands of seed pods to the ground every hour. It will tackle large-scale restoration projects, but the niche element of this technology really lies in the biotech, which is the support system for the seeds once they hit the ground. It protects the seed from different types of combative elements of wildlife ingress, but also supports the seed once it germinates and really helps deliver all of those nutrients and mineral sources that it needs, along with some probiotics to really boost early-stage growth. Airseed Technology will manufacture these seed pods in what it calls a mobile manufacturing plant. The solution has been designed with global scale and rapid response in mind. The seeds are chosen for the terrain to be planted and the pods manufactured locally using waste biomass, providing a carbon-rich coating that protects seeds from birds, insects, and rodents. The drones autonomously fly pre-programmed flight paths, planting a predefined pattern and recording each seed's coordinates, which allows the route to be surveyed later to assess the health of the trees. Airseed Technologies says it has already planted more than 50,000 trees in South Africa and Australia and aims to plant 100 million trees by 2024. The United Nations Environment Programme says the world loses around 7 million hectares of forest every year, an area equal to the size of Portugal.
EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear.
Tao លោកអ្នកចិត្តរៀបអាពាហ៍ពិពាហ៍មែនទេ ហើយពិបាករកក្រុមហ៊ុនថតវីដេអូផ្សាយផ្ទាល់ដែលមានគុណភាពមែនទេអស់កង្វល់រ៉ាទីកាជាក្រុមហ៊ុនទទួលស្គាល់លំដាប់អន្តរជាតិលើសេវាកម្មថតផ្សាយផ្ទាល់គ្រប់កម្មវិធីកម្រិត 4K ដំបូងបង្អស់នៅកម្ពុជារ៉ាទីកាប្រើប្រាស់ឧបករណ៍ទំនើបម៉ាកល្បីធានាគុណភាពការផលិតតាមបច្ចេកវិទ្យាទាន់សម័យរ៉ាទីកានឹងជួយធ្វើឲ្យកម្មវិធីលោកអ្នកកាន់តែមានភាពអស្ចារ្យលោកអ្នកនឹងបានឃើញរាល់សកម្មភាពក្នុងពិធីទៅលើកញ្ចក់ទូរទស្សន៍ទំហំធំកម្រិត 4K និងការបញ្ចាំងលើផ្ទាំងក្រណាត់សព្រមទាំង LED ដែលមានរូបភាពច្បាស់ត្រជាក់ភ្នែកសូមអញ្ជើញកក់ពីឥឡូវនេះតាមរយៈលេខទូរស័ព្ទ012 823 848 017 838 889និង016 823 848រ៉ាហ្វីកាទំនុកចិត្តការទទួលខុសត្រូវនិងគុណភាពខ្ពស់
Making the headlines tonight. U.S. Embassy responds to Prime Minister's request, saying Humanet's West Point degree has already been confirmed since 2019. Prime Minister Hun Sen will deliver donations to Myanmar during his state visit. French President Macron stated he wants to piss off unvaccinated amid rise of Omicron cases in France. And a drone can drop 40... EAC News. Thank you for joining us. We are here live streaming the arrival of Prime Minister Hun Sen that has returned from an official state visit to Myanmar, in which he has talked with the General Min Aung Hlaing about some of the conflict crisis that is happening in Myanmar and other topics, such as the ASEAN. Prime Minister Hun Sen is arriving right now at the Phnom Penh International Airport. He went to Myanmar on Saturday. In which the Premier of Cambodia has met with Min Aung Hlaing on Friday to help find a solution to the country's ongoing crisis and bring Myanmar back to ASEAN. The Prime Minister has already arrived at the Phnom Penh International. Has just been arrived right now at the moment, and will give procedure for a press conference in a speech in which we can predict topics such as the Myanmar ongoing crisis as well as ASEAN unity. Founder of the Win-Win policy and chair of ASEAN 2022, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen told Myanmar's military leader Min Aung Hlaing that based on experience and lessons learned in Cambodia, complete peace and national unity can only be achieved with the participation and consent of all parties involved. In a joint statement issued on Friday, 7 January, it was stated that it is in this spirit that Myanmar military leader Min Aung Hlaing has promised to facilitate a visit of special envoys of ASEAN to Myanmar and to meet with all parties, including ethnic armed groups, to take into account the full and actual situation in Myanmar. The new ASEAN's chair special envoy to Myanmar is Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn, who will play a key role in mediating the conflict between the two sides. Speaking at the 23rd ASEAN's lecture on Cambodia's 2022 ASEAN chairmanship, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn said, "We took a little bit of a different approach when we assumed the chairmanship, and especially when I was appointed as a special envoy to Myanmar. My role," the Prak Sokhonn said, "will be as facilitator and mediator, and the whole political process will be all Myanmar-led. We will not decide on behalf of the people of Myanmar." Myanmar is now a country with two governments, about 20 ethnic armed groups, and going through one of the longest-running civil wars in the world. Assessing the situation in Cambodia before 1998, it does not look much different from what Myanmar is experiencing today. After the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime in 1979, the civil war in Cambodia continued until 1998, only coming to an end through Prime Minister Hun Sen's win-win policy, which brought peace and complete national reconciliation, no more armed groups, and the restoration of a single government in the country. Myanmar's military leader, Min Aung Hlaing, has promised to the chairman of ASEAN and Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen, that he will facilitate the ASEAN's special envoy's visit to Myanmar to meet with all parties in the conflict across the country, including ethnic armed groups. This promise was made during the visit of ASEAN Chairman of 2022, the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen, to Myanmar and met with Min Aung Hlaing on the afternoon of January 7. General Min Aung Hlaing informed that his military government has decided to declare a ceasefire with all ethnic armed groups until the end of 2022 and called on all parties to implement the ceasefire stand for the benefit of the nation and the people, stop all violence and exercise the utmost patience. He congratulated Cambodia on assuming the ASEAN chairmanship in 2022 and welcomed the appointment of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Prak Sokhonn, as the special envoy of the ASEAN chair on Myanmar, and pledged to support to the special envoy to fulfill its role in implementing the 5-point unanimous agreement in accordance with the ASEAN Charter. In a joint statement issued on January 7, it stated, "His Excellency, the Senior General, welcomed the participation of the special envoy of the ASEAN chair on Myanmar to participate in the ceasefire talks with the minorities' armed forces." The Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen, shared the success of Cambodia's win-win policy, which has achieved national reconciliation, lasting peace, stability, development, and prosperity. He emphasized that based on experience and lessons learned in Cambodia, the national unity can be achieved only without the participation of all stakeholders. Today's joint declaration is a positive sign that paves the way for the implementation of the 5 ASEAN consensus agreements for Myanmar, which has been stalled in the past. ASEAN's 5-point unanimous agreement on Myanmar's calls for an end to the violence, the establishment of a multilateral dialogue, the coordination of ASEAN special envoys, the provision of humanitarian assistance, and the granting of special envoys to visit Myanmar. The crisis in Myanmar stems from the military coup that took place on February 1st of 2021, the arrest of State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other ruling party officials by the Myanmar Armed Forces. Disregarded the results of the November 2020 election and handed over the leadership of the country to the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army, Min Aung Hlaing. The coup has angered the people of Myanmar, who have staged a series of protests, with ASEAN recently deciding not to include Myanmar as its summit. Such decision was not decided in the time Cambodia became ASEAN chairmanship this year. The Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Sen, has told lately he would bring Myanmar back to ASEAN for strengthening the unity of the Southeast Asian nation. So we see now that Prime Minister Hun Sen is getting out of the airplane, going down in the stairs. He has officially arrived in Cambodia, in the Kingdom of Cambodia, in which, of course, we all know he's the leader of this nation. He went to a state visit to Myanmar to solve or help to solve the ongoing crisis in the nation, in the ASEAN nation. As we know, last year, when Prime Minister Hun Sen was not the chairmanship of the ASEAN, Myanmar went excluded of the ASEAN group because of the coup, the military junta that has occupied the nation. So we have right now Prime Minister Hun Sen speaking with officials from the National Assembly, as well as the Senate and other important officials from the government. We can expect some press release in which we're going to speak with others. We're going to listen what Prime Minister Hun Sen has to say. We have our EAC News correspondent in the field right now. Our EAC News reporter, Sirei Wat. Sirei Wat, good morning. What do you expect from the speech, and how is the moment right now at the airport? Can you share, please, with us some information regarding this arrival of the Prime Minister Hun Sen back to Cambodia?
Thank you, Yuri. The current Prime Minister are landing in the international airport of Phnom Penh about 10:45 a.m. this morning. We can see the Deputy Prime Minister, Samdech Kralahom, and other high-ranking officials are already attending to welcome the Prime Minister. That he is coming from the successful mission from. That he coming from the successful mission from the Myanmar, that in the mission that the Prime Minister bring back Myanmar to ASEAN.
I can see you are crossing closer to Prime Minister, right?
Yes, the Prime Minister went to the VIP room, which means that he will be stopped there for a moment, and then after the Prime Minister depart, we will have a press conference that will be held by that will be led by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that will be do a media briefing about the mission that the Prime Minister going to Myanmar. This is the successful achievement of the Cambodia after about 30 years from the country that seek the solution, they seek the negotiation to the country that find the negotiation for another country like Cambodia, because in the 1991 Cambodia is get help from the foreign country to let Cambodia to find a peace, to find to meet all the party of the Cambodia to join to create the Paris Agreement. And in the 1993, the win-win policy of the Prime Minister bring the Cambodia back into unity. That's why the Prime Minister told the Min Aung Hlaing that the peace and the unity of the country is need all the party to involve, not just one or two party to involve. And this is the message the Prime Minister sent to the military leader of the Myanmar.
I see. Thank you very much, Sri Wat, for your information. We are here from our studio where we are waiting for Prime Minister Hun Sen. He has just arrived in the Phnom Penh International Airport. He is going now to VIP room, as our correspondent, EAC News reporter Sri Wat just told us. He is right now in Phnom Penh, where you can expect some major informations in his speech regarding his state visit to Myanmar. Our reporter, EAC News reporter Sri Wat, he has mentioned the win-win policy, in which it was one of the major policies of Cambodia that has took out Cambodia from the war, bringing Cambodia into a stability, peace, and freedom. So we are also celebrating here in Cambodia the 43th anniversary of the Victory's Day, in which Cambodia has fought against majorly the Khmer Rouge, and also with the help and partnerships with neighbor Vietnam during this hard moments of Cambodia to establish peace. So Prime Minister Hun Sen has using the recent past of Cambodia as a way to show Myanmar that Cambodia can be a great partner to solve the ongoing crisis in Myanmar. So Prime Minister Hun Sen is the best example around the region to show that he is a fundamental actor of peace in the country, not only right now in the country, but as an example to the whole region of Southeast Asia. So we see that Prime Minister Hun Sen is being a leader as the chairman of the ASEAN 2022 meeting with the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army of Myanmar, Min Aung Hlaing. We can expect some good news according to the situation. We cannot say they are great news, but we can expect some benefits from this visit of Prime Minister Hun Sen regarding the crisis in which the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army of Myanmar, Min Aung Hlaing, has promised that he will accept the special envoy of ASEAN to go to the country to help dealing with the crisis. We also have the Minister of the National Defense, Prak Sokhonn, helping to bring the conciliation. He has stated he would not supervise or make any peace agreement in the country. He will only try to coordinate and bring assistance, but all the decisions in the Myanmar country will be done by the Myanmar government. Of course, the Cambodia won't be in position of any oppressive position in the country. Cambodia is being a partner and trying to facilitate, coordinate this ongoing crisis, especially now the Prime Minister Hun Sen is the chairman of the ASEAN 2022. Prime Minister Hun Sen has returned just right now. He has just landed in Cambodia from an official state visit to Myanmar, in which the Premier of Cambodia has met with Min Aung Hlaing on Friday, yesterday, to help find a solution to the country's ongoing crisis and bring Myanmar back to ASEAN. The Prime Minister will arrive at the Phnom Penh International and will give procedure for a press conference in a speech in which we can predict topics such as the Myanmar ongoing crisis, as well as the ASEAN unity. Founder of the Win-Win policy and chair of ASEAN 2022, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen told Myanmar's military leader Min Aung Hlaing that based on experience and lessons learned in Cambodia, complete peace and national unity can only be achieved with the participation and consent of all parties involved. Now we are expecting the press conference to start. We see that the press conference is about to start here in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh. Let's see.
អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នារំពឹងទុកដែរគឺការអញ្ជើញធ្វើដំណើរនេះគឺសំដៅរកវិធីយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីជួយសម្រួលឲ្យសភាពការនៅមីយ៉ាន់ម៉ាបានធូរស្រាលវិញពិសេសគឺពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅនឹងការធ្វើយ៉ាងណាដើម្បីបញ្ឈប់អំពើហិង្សាបញ្ឈប់ហើយគោលបំណងធំទី2គឺដើម្បីធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចឲ្យជំនួយមនុស្សធម៌ដែលប្រជាជនមីយ៉ាន់ម៉ាត្រូវការគឺអើងហើយបានទៅដល់ដៃរបស់អ្នកដែលត្រូវការបំផុតព្រោះបញ្ហានេះវាមានការកកស្ទះបន្តិចដែរដោយសារតែមានបញ្ហាមិនឯកភាពគ្នាចំពោះគោលដៅនៃការចែកជំនួយមនុស្សធម៌នោះ